Hey everybody. So this is because of our block day schedule. This is the second day of having race in the U.S., and this is always, I think, one of the more difficult classes as students still don't quite know one another, and yet we're already diving into some pretty deep conversations and some personal sharing and things like that can make you uncomfortable. But one of the agreements that we use in our class is actually, I was going to say like all four agreements. Um, so the four agreements that we talked about today as a class and kind of redefined in our own words and discussed were, you have to speak your truth. A lot of times people are going to try to say, what people of color's experience are or what white people's experience are or whatever it may be. But you can only speak your truth from where you're coming from. And so we always try to focus on that you're telling your own story. You're not telling, excuse me, you're not telling somebody else's story. You're telling your own. Then the second one is to experience discomfort. Having dialogue about race and how it impacts other people and how our own actions can play in that, it can be uncomfortable. But it should never be about the discomfort. It should never be about feeling guilty or feeling bad, unless you have something to feel bad for, specific action or comment or something that you've said. But when we start talking about the complexity of race in our systems and in our nation, it's just an uncomfortable thing. We're not used to talking about that in that way. Several of the students, when we kind of were debriefing some of the exercises that we did today, talked about, I just don't really have these conversations. Like, I think about it and I notice things, but I don't really have these conversations with other people, especially people I don't know. So experience discomfort, which leads to staying engaged, right? We want to make sure that we continue to have the conversation. You don't check out, you don't step back from it, you lean into that discomfort and you stay engaged. And then finally, expecting and accepting non-closure. All four of these agreements are established by Pacific Education Group as part of their courageous conversations about race protocols, and we kind of adapt them into this class with students after multiple trainings that we've had around that. But it was pretty cool, and the thing that struck me the most, and we kind of debriefed, is we did an activity, a listening activity, where we partnered up with somebody that we didn't know. We sat down, and then person A shared with person B the first time that they became aware of their own race. And for different students, it's at different points, right? And we didn't really, I didn't have people share out what they heard or, their own story. But we did this process where we did that. They just listened for 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes got to ask questions and for clarity and to dig deeper. And then we flipped it around and did the same thing. And because there was an odd number of students, I paired up with a student and shared first time for me that I realized, or that I was confronted with the fact that I was white, and that meant that somebody else was not, and that established a difference. I was pretty young. I was like 3 or 4 years old. And then the student that I was sharing with shared that their experience happened when they were about 12 or 13. And so what strikes me is just, a lot of times, people that get agitated about this work, about racial justice work, about talking about these things in schools, they get agitated because they think that we're post-racial and that we shouldn't be talking about race, and we're creating racism by talking about race. My response to that is, all of the students today that are in this class, as they shared, could go to a time when they felt different or were confronted with their own racial identity and how society impacted that. That wasn't me. I didn't tell them about that. I didn't, frame it in any way other than just the first time you became aware of your own race. And yet all of them were able to go to a point in time, especially our students of color, were able to go to a point in time where they felt otherized. So anyway, we'll see you next time. Thanks.